This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Hello and welcome to Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds.
It's terrifying.
I'm Trevor Keyson, and my super specific gay costume is I'm the fat suit from Shallow Hal.
No. Hello, my name is Michael Willer. I'm a chubby chaser, and I started this sentence before I knew what I was going to say for my thing. So happy Halloween, everybody.
Hey, my name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am I'm right behind Michael. We just jumped in real quick, and I can't remember what I was going to say. So,
Here we are.
Well, I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and today I'm freshly back from Vienna. That's right, land of strudel.
did you bring us some fingers?
It's us, the worst bunch of scare actors at Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, we are failing our audition for the haunted house. We are just, no, this is not working. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast. We're so glad to have you join us again. And as we may have hinted, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We are dangerously close to our 200th episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
Coming up in 2 weeks. That's absolutely crazy.
2 weeks.
We've been taking listener messages, both written and voice messages, about experiences you may have had with the podcast, whether it's affected your life or the way that you've interacted with other people, anecdotes about what you might have done differently after listening to the show. And
there's still time to send yours.
There's still plenty of time to send yours in. Thank you to the people who have already sent us in their own stories. We're looking forward to sharing them, talking about them, and just making this a celebration of you guys. We've done enough talking. We want to hear what you guys have to say.
Wait, you're saying 200 hours of us talking is enough talking, Michael?
It's more than 200 hours.
Almost like you edited it and sat through every episode multiple times.
Well,
what's wrong with you?
Thankfully, we have a new editor that's working out quite nicely. But yes, most of those are a labor of love. Let's call it that. So if you want to send us your stories, you can email them to us at bigfatgaypod@gmail.com. That should work for voice memos as well. But if your voice memo is too large to attach to an email, you can use wetransfer.com. It is safe and easy to use, and send it to the same email address, bigfatgaypod@gmail.com.
Also, thank you as always to our patrons,
Yay.
To our partners, Big Fig and Bearskin. It's too late to get a jockstrap from Bearskin for your Halloween costume, but Thanksgiving is just around the corner. I don't know what your plans are, but I mean, they could involve a jockstrap.
Nothing says Halloween like a well-stuffed jockstrap.
Thanksgiving is a feasting holiday. And, I think sometimes when underwear is too confining, a jockstrap is called for.
Oh, boy. Hi, Grandma. How are you? Surprise. Figured I'd get extra comfortable for this year.
Well, that's why you get quick release pants.
Okay. Well, let's get out of that. And thank you to Bigger City for, of course, sponsoring our episode. We love you very much. And you guys make our world go round. All right. Now on to our special Halloween episode.
Oh, that must mean it's time for pop culture.
It's just like tap dancing pumpkins.
Jazz hands skills.
So I didn't understand this at all because, I don't know, I think I lack the requisite sports gene to follow Bear Week.
Not just Fat Bear Week.
Yeah, whatever.
So, it's that the time of year is coming past again. Early in October every year, there is Fat Bear Week, which is a celebration of the fattest bears in Alaska, all ready for hibernation.
I've got to say, ever since we've started featuring this story on a yearly basis, this is an annual event for me. Like, this is one of the ways I'm starting to measure the passing of time, trying to unflatten the circle.
There's a lot of drama this year.
The drama appropriate for Halloween.
Yeah,
this is
a little
nightmarish.
scary.
Over the summer, Mama Grazer's cub was killed by Chunk, who's been her primary competitor in this Bear Week and past Bear Weeks. But there was a separate killing on the live stream at the start of Bear Week, which actually then kind of delayed things because it was just very traumatic, but very real.
I'm just picturing them like unveiling the live stream and like schools around the world tuning in to see the bears.
Oh, dear.
I mean, that's nature.
Well, it was
nature.
ratings
I didn't
week.
realize bears were so like, I don't know. I didn't realize bears killed each other. I guess it's a territorial thing.
It's one of the reasons why mother bears are so protective. It's
The statement they released said, "We love to celebrate the success of bears with full stomachs and ample body fat, but the ferocity of bears is real," said Mike Fitz, Explore.org's resident naturalist. "The risks they face are real, their lives can be hard, and their deaths can be painful." So Fat Bear Week has kind of become like a huge online meme thing, both in and out of the bear community.
I think it's surpassed the Puppy Bowl and Shark Week.
Yes.
But Colbert covers it. There's a bear named after Colbert that
tracks.
So.
Well, it would have to be.
The difference is, I feel like there is a big thing that happens online where animals get memed and it kind of erases like the ferocity of them. Like Fat Bear Week, it's like, oh Lord, he's coming, instead of like, oh Lord, he's coming.
Well, come on, it's a yearly event now where some woman gets gored by a bison at Yellowstone because she thinks they're cute and thinks that you can go up and pet them.
Are you saying that the memeing overshadows the maiming?
God.
Yes. And I want to talk, we need to talk about mooding.
Oh, okay.
Because hippos are very dangerous animals.
I see.
The most dangerous.
You should say that Moodang is in fact a baby
Okay,
hippo.
if you don't know who Moodang is, then what are you doing with your life?
Living it
a lot more than we are.
I mean, I'm probably the least plugged in of the four of us, and I know who Moodang is.
I dispute that, Michael.
Hippos are very dangerous, and I feel like this whole like, oh my God, Moodang's so wild and so sassy and like biting, like exhibiting all this behavior that I'm like, this is very troubling. We are going to be like, as a society, fail Moodang, and then something horrible is going to happen. And it's like, how did this happen? We never saw the signs. I saw the signs, people.
And how does this relate to Bear Week?
Because the memification of like fat animals.
Yeah.
They're scary.
And just, I mean, Fat Bear Week is it's a celebration of fat. It's wonderful. And I like that Grazer got to be the kind of final girl of Bear Week with this.
I wonder if this is actually an extension, because it is fat animals. I wonder if it's the same extension of like, we don't take fat people seriously, so we don't take fat animals seriously.
I would argue that
that's probably that's fair.
I think especially in the case of hippos, because it's like, oh, they're just so fat and lazy. And it's like, no, if you have seen a hippo in motion.
Is this an urban legend, or is this true that hippos are the most responsible for human deaths?
Yes.
Out of all animal creatures.
I think because one, they're underestimated. And two, they take out boats at a time.
And also they do it for like, they're not eating people.
Well,
they're just killing them.
Yeah. And I think if I recall correctly, don't quote me on this, I think they're one of the few animals that may kill a person just because you're close.
Yeah.
Like almost with malice, you
piss me off, kid. You piss me off.
And just like look up a video of a hippo breaching, like jumping out, like surfacing and jumping out of the water. It is terrifying.
It's the closest you'll get to pigs fly.
Okay, just to clear the air, it's hippos are not the most deadly animal, but they're definitely up there. Mosquitoes kill the most people. If you're going to get really,
okay. Well, maybe the most dangerous mammal.
Point being,
I don't know.
I did look for mammal. It's not on the list anyway. They're dangerous. Don't let the urban legend fool you into thinking they're not.
Never mind. Mosquitoes are more dangerous than them. Go pet a hippo.
Just to wrap up the Mama Grazer. So in case you're wondering how she could possibly have let her cubs get attacked, well, they tumbled over the edge of a waterfall and got swept downstream. And that's how Chunk was able to attack them. So
well, and there is something to be said for the fact that they were no doubt injured. And there's a thing in the animal world about you clean up injured animals.
Yeah. Anyway, So that's a bit of a downer. Let's go into something really.
I'm curious how you're gonna finish that sentence, because
I was gonna say uplifting. Ironically, but I don't know if you have better segue than
But
that.
our next story features Azalea Banks. How bad could it be?
Yeah. This is troubling. So, is this first report? Or is this one of the many places reported in Sportskita, an article written by Eritrika Ball about is Azalea Banks saying, quote, "A fat white man is her worst nightmare," which kind of almost makes it sound better than what she actually is saying. Like,
oh yeah, that's the nicest thing
That's
she
the nicest thing on that page that she says about fat white men.
Sorry. So for those of you who don't know who Azalea Banks is,
I don't.
Azalea Banks is a rapper, but who really at this point is more famous for controversy. I feel like
no.
has famously endorsed Donald Trump in both elections, but also was like tearing into Trump about his weight as part of this tirade.
Wait. She's supporting Donald Trump, but she's mortally afraid of fat white
She
men.
also went off on witchcraft at some point, but then also was like digging up her dead cat for weird reasons during lockdown.
This just sounds like she's on parade. Anything she can say to get noticed.
Yeah.
She is famous for beefing with people and just stirring shit up.
I feel like this is all code for desperate for attention.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Point being that what she's posting is beyond problematic, and it's prompting people. I mean, I guess there are people calling her out on it, but people are agreeing with her too. So she's when she says I'm extremely fat, she tweeted, "I think I'm ready to admit that I'm extremely fat phobic towards men, especially fat white men."
What she means is that she's fat phobic generally and against fat black men, but particularly fat white men.
Mm-hmm.
She's not owning it as a way of saying, hey, like, I understand I have this problem. She's owning it in terms of like, she's reclaiming the word fat phobic as a good thing.
Yes.
She's saying, this is who I am, and I'm not apologizing for that. And then people are jumping on this bandwagon.
Saying, you go, girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what did this one guy say? Like, yeah, we need to really bring back fat shaming in a big way.
Yeah. Yeah. Bring back fat bullying.
So the irony of this is these tweets started the day after Jelly Roll announced he was leaving Twitter/X for it being too toxic. And Jelly Roll being number one on the Billboard 200, I think is what prompted this tirade, because she was initially just tweeting about like hating Jelly Roll and how he didn't deserve to be number one and blah, blah, blah.
Well, he's fat. If
you have any doubt, because what we're reading so far is kind of like summarizing what she said, but if you have any doubts about how horrible, truly horrible she is, I don't want to read this on the podcast, but if you want to dig deeper in this article that we'll share on the website, scroll about halfway down, there is a screenshot of one of her tweets that kind of predated this
controversy
ownership of hers, where she just unleashes, and it is disgusting. And if you are desperate to understand exactly how awful she is, you can just scroll down and read that. I don't particularly want to say it on air, but that's what I'm reacting to, because up at the top of the article, you're kind of like, okay, like this is bad, but how bad is it? No, it's
let's just
awful.
think over, dear listener, as we approach our 200th episode, some of the awful things that we've quoted from stories in the past. Jillian Michaels, for example, I still cannot say that name without reflexively saying a word that Michael will have to bleep.
Is she still in existence?
This quote, this stuff that from Azalea Banks made me cringe, even after all that stuff.
The silver lining to this is, so this kind of like intersected with Bear Twitter, I think, because like,
it would.
There were just like a lot of memes, and then also like fat bears showing up in her replies making fun of her. And then there was a point where she was like, I think her algorithm was starting to shift because of all of these interactions with her tweets. And she's like, what are all these fat incels doing in my replies? And it's like, no, these are bears dunking on you.
I don't really know her that well. I've heard her music before, but she really just screams to me, there is no part of my heart I won't turn over for attention. That's all it is to me.
It reminds me of Ann Coulter.
Yeah. Anyway, so she can go fuck herself. Let's go to something more fun.
I need an eagle to carry me away. Fat Watch 2024.
I feel like a Halloween version of this would be like, I don't know, organ, and it would be a bat instead of an eagle.
I feel like a bat is not nearly as dramatic.
This actually was the Halloween version, and that was a griffin.
Very clever. Anyway, so we have an interesting article, which I think the important part is the source of the article, which is The Takeout, which is a sort of restaurant and food publication written by,
and this is by
Lindsay Reynolds. Right. And the headline we have going here is, "It's time for Cheesecake Factory to dump the Skinnylicious menu."
All right. So the article, the article is about how they're offended that the Cheesecake Factory has a section of the menu called the Skinnylicious menu. And then they go on to talk about fat phobia in popular culture. But the only thing interesting about the Skinnylicious menu is that it's a section of the menu with lower calorie items.
Specifically, it is dividing food into good/no guilt food.
No, but it's not. Yeah. It's not. The article is.
No, Skinnylicious. You don't think that makes that food appealing as a sort of healthy, good alternative to all of the fatty foods that they have on the rest of the menu?
You can object to the word skinny if you like, but you want to replace it with low calorie, great. But I think that's a great section of a menu to have for people who want to do that. The problem is maybe the word skinny, but quite frankly, the word skinny is so stigmatized now. Nobody wants to be skinny.
I would argue
don't think that's true at all.
That's a hard disagree.
No,
hold on.
No,
there has been such a backlash against the word skinny, not only in fat community, but also general community. Like, it's not about skinny, it's about health. Yeah. It's not about skinny, it's about this. Now you can say that's code, but the word skinny is not making any points for people.
I would agree with Dan that skinny is a negative turn as opposed to say thin, which is more neutral.
But I would argue that people don't want to say skinny, but they mean skinny, and I think that is the kind of 90s resurgence of the Ozempic, everything plus erasure. We're seeing the backswing into skinny.
All right, but let's grant that. If you just renamed this the low calorie menu, would anybody have a problem?
I wouldn't. No, that was my point.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, but but they haven't, and it's not.
But the semantics we're talking about here is similar to McDonald's for a little while put a green section on their menu.
Yeah.
Where they had the veggie burger and the salad, right? And while you can think about what that means to the consumer's head when they're looking at this is the healthy section versus the rest of their stuff, which is by now default unhealthy, right? The reason why it exists, right, is not to make you feel bad. It's because if a group of people are considering where to eat, McDonald's wants you to be able to consider them as an option by providing vegetarian options, right? So,
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and vegetarian and green kind of go together. Nowhere did these restaurants say that it's healthy.
They don't need to, though, Dan. That's a false argument, because skinny, by definition, in mainstream culture is healthy.
But that's not the restaurant's fault.
No, but they're riding the wave of belief systems, which reinforces them.
Yeah,
and keeps the stigma going.
Yeah, they didn't choose that word by accident.
Do you know how many meetings probably went into Skinnylicious? How many thousands of dollars were spent with that?
Yeah, and my point is, I don't think the word skinny inherently means good and healthy.
I would say that fat doesn't mean bad, but we live in a society.
All right.
Well, yeah. So I think the upshot here is that we clearly have more to discuss that goes outside the realm of this Fat Watch, which I think is just, to me, it's interesting and worth noting that a food publication is making the point, whether it's a justified point or not. The point of the article is, let's not moralize food. Let's not divide food into good and bad versions. Now, Dan's arguing that it's a flawed starting place for it, but I think the actual point is still valid in terms of hey, we cover food all the time. We don't want you thinking of food in terms of good food and bad food, guilty and not guilty.
Anyway, what is something that you might find on a Skinnylicious menu in our alternate universe? The stuff.
The stuff.
Oh, boy. The stuff is the titular product in the 1985. I guess I don't think I could call this a cult classic, because I had never heard of this movie before. But
oh no, you legit can.
Is it?
This is one of the most popular cult horror movies around.
Really?
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
I've never heard of it.
I mean, I can kind of see why.
If you go on, I mean, not to plug our competition, but if you go online and you do a search for movie podcasts that have done episodes on this stuff, you can scroll for pages and pages and pages and pages.
So just to kick us off, in case, hopefully we've given you enough time to watch it if you're interested, but just to catch you up, the log line for the stuff is as follows. A delicious, mysterious goo that oozes from the earth is marketed as the newest dessert sensation, but the tasty treat rots more than teeth when zombie-like snackers who only want to consume more of the strange substance at any cost begin infesting the world.
Yeah, I would quibble with the word zombie just because they're zombies in the way that like the Stepford Wives are zombies.
Yeah, they're sort of hidden zombies. Like they keep the appearance of being human, but are secretly being kind of vaguely mind controlled by the stuff. Basically, the only scheme here is get other people to eat the stuff. There's no other ulterior grand motive. It's just spread the stuff everywhere, make everybody eat it.
Yeah, it's like a Trump rally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to figure out how to start this because there's so much to say about this movie.
There's so much to talk about. I would start here. The thing that you see immediately in the film is, and I was telling this to Trevor as we were watching it, it's if you've ever seen, the porn movies that really depend on situation.
Oh, that's a really good comparison.
It's like it has the acting values of a porn movie without the porn.
Totally baffling. But here's the thing, because it's not porn, it's so baffling the choices that these actors are making.
Well, there's nothing there. It's not it's not very well written. The lines are absurd.
No, but it's consistently baffling. Like it's baffling in the same way, which almost makes me think it's a directorial thing. Although I haven't seen Larry Cohen's other work, but he's the writer-director for this movie.
As we start talking about the acting, though, it's worth mentioning, the director has a long pedigree of horror movies, and the cast is insane.
Insanely good.
Yeah.
There's just Paul Sorvino.
Michael Moriarty, Danny Aiello.
Yes.
The guy from Saturday Night Live, Garrett Morris.
Garrett Morris. And I think Garrett Morris gets away mostly unscathed, whereas like poor Paul Sorvino, I think he's just committed to the comedy of how bad it is.
Also, the Where's the Beef Lady shows up.
So Where's the Beef Lady and the other person from
against Abe Vigoda?
Abe Vigoda from you may remember him from Barney Miller. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
So I will say I watched this movie without any awareness of the pedigree. And I'm a cult horror movie fan. I've seen a lot of different types of horror movies and had discussions about many more. And I just this had never come up in my world. And I was not familiar with any of the actors. And so I truly went into this blind and came away just truly baffled so the best way I can describe the way that this movie handles dramatic tension is through the actor's portrayal of bemusement and vague confusion. It's just a whole lot of, oh, this is happening. Okay. Let's get away from this thing happening. It's so like milk toast.
I love the lead though. I love the lead. The lead is actually he is doing so much to help the script, and he's doing it as character work. It is, he's doing so much heavy lifting because the script is garbage.
I mean, it gave me kind of like, we have Matthew McConaughey at home.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sure.
The person we're talking about is Michael Moriarty.
Yes.
He's the lead playing Mo in this.
Yeah, brilliant Canadian
called
actor.
Mo because whenever anyone offers him money, he wants some Mo.
Yes.
He has much like the Joker in The Dark Knight. He has a few different reasons, like stories for why he's called Mo. Would you like to know how I got this nickname?
So like going to what Dan says, to me, it felt like a dream almost, just because there's just the pacing is weird and like the logic, and it's like, okay, so there's the two plots. Mo is kind of digging to investigate the stuff and like what it's made of.
We should say that the reason he's investigating this stuff is that a rival company, because this is so friggin' 80s, a rival company, they don't want to stop them. They want to steal it. And so he's hired for corporate espionage so that he can steal the formula for stuff.
But that plot line is abandoned almost immediately.
Well, as well it should be, because the stuff turns out to be very dangerous. And I do appreciate the pacing, because they get you past all the humdrum of what would normally be unbearable expository.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
And they shuttle you through it.
there's that plot happening. And then there's also a young boy, Jason, whose family has started to purchase the stuff, and he knows that there's something wrong with it because he like sees it moving in the fridge.
Yeah.
And no one believes him. And like his family is succumbing to the stuff because they're eating it. But like when these 2 points halfway through the runtime of the movie intersect, Matthew,
The young boy and the investigator. Yeah.
Michael Moriarty's character Mo just kind of like pulls up in a car. He's like, "Get in! We are halfway through the runtime of this movie. There's no time to explain."
He literally, like, the kid's running away from his zombie family, and he's running through the street, and then Mo pulls up, shouts, "I saw it move too. Get in!"
Yeah, and I'm
not
like,
knowing who he
did
is.
the screenwriter tell you that? No, but again, what I appreciate about that is, as the audience, we know we want to get on with it. And the kid does give the requisite line, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And he said, I saw it move too. And to set it up, the investigator does say, "I want to see that kid," because he hears about him on the news or something. Because the kid goes through a rampage trying to get stuff out of the grocery store.
No, he knows who the kid is. I guess my point was that the kid's just running through the street, and he's driving through the street.
Yeah.
He didn't get
There's
to the
no
house.
reason why you should know who the kid is.
Yeah. That was sort of my point, that they meet through convenience.
Both the kid and his brother, it must be mentioned, have the most shockingly blue eyes. Like they
the whole family.
The crowd.
Well, no, because
does.
the kid and his brother, the actors are actually real brothers.
Yeah.
Well, but did you look at their parents too? They also have the same like crazy blue eyes. It was really good casting. Yeah, the mom and the dad both have like the same eyes. Anyway, so the plot is, as Dan says, it's thin, but also they move you through it. Like there's very little.
They know it's thin. They know it.
And the editing is shocking sometimes, but
I think they used a paper cutter.
Pretty well paced. The reason we have this on the show at all is because it tackles, well, and I would say attempts to tackle, and I'm curious what your guys' take is, a handful of subjects around food and around diet culture and around, again, like food morality.
Yeah.
There's obviously the 80s consumerism thing, which is like right at the heart of all that. And so there's so many issues that this movie could potentially tackle. And I feel like it, for my money, my experience of it was kind of disappointing because I was hoping to see that more. And all I really felt like I got
more deeply.
Yeah. All I really felt like I got was they used like headline quotes. They just sort of threw headline quotes into the movie that would make you think about, the mom says, she's like holding the stuff and she looks at her son. She's like, "I've lost 6 pounds already and I feel amazing."
Yeah.
But they don't do anything with that.
Yeah.
She just says it.
Yeah.
And so like my question is like how, and there's other moments like that with other sort of social satirical topics.
Commentary.
Yeah, social commentary. And I feel like it just sort of throws in a line, but doesn't take it anywhere. And I was wondering if you guys, like, did I miss something? Was there some kind of like great like glue holding this together that I didn't pick up on?
I think it's kind of like in the same way that Airplane just threw a million jokes at the wall and most of them stuck and some of them didn't. I think this is one of those things where they take a lot of the parody and the social attack, and there's just so many of them at such a constant rate that like you get it without it being, no, they're not going to investigate it. They're just going to throw like 6 dozen of them at you, and I appreciated that.
Okay.
I think the points where it gets the closest to kind of tackling diet culture stuff is the plot with Jason and his family, and like when they're becoming zombies, and like Jason's saying it's alive and his dad is zombified now. He's like, "There's something alive in yogurt. It's benign bacteria." And like it kills the bad stuff inside of you.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed, but that is actually part of the marketing. He's echoing the marketing that the woman who is the head marketer who now renounces the stuff. I love that it's actually called the stuff. She renounces it. She renounces it, and she knows that she's responsible for putting lines like that in.
Right.
And that came from the lab, and she picked up on that. And so I love it as a really down and dirty, blink or you'll miss it, indictment of consumer culture, but not just consumer culture in general, but specifically of food, and how hard things like Snackwells are pitched at people, and how hard cereal companies are pitched at people. And it's just this crushing, like, you must eat this, which is where the family eventually is saying, no, you have to eat it. You have to eat it. You know, I feel wonderful. You have to eat it.
And you can become a part of the family again.
You can become and you know what it reminded me of, actually? This, and I don't know how you guys think about this, but when I was watching this, I was thinking, holy shit, this is what it feels like talking about Ozempic today. Like, if you're not on it, why aren't you? What's wrong with you?
Interesting.
One of the things that I thought was interesting in that scene was, while I don't think it was the intention of the director or the movie, it shows how much control a kid is under from his parents as far as what they consume.
Oh,
the opening scene of that movie is the kid getting hungry, going down to the refrigerator for a midnight snack.
Oh, yeah.
And then nearly getting abused by his father for getting
getting abused. Actually,
Yeah, it's certainly verbal abuse. No, it's this idea like, I caught you downstairs. How dare you come downstairs? And then he mentions it the next morning about what a terrible kid he is for coming downstairs in the middle of the night.
And then with the mom, like, he's hungry. She gives him stuff. Oh, if you're not going to eat the stuff, then you don't eat. Right.
Yep.
He goes upstairs and he starts mimicking eating shaving cream at a later part of the movie
to trick them.
I love that. I love that so much.
I love that scene. And also, like, the fact that he fills up the container with shaving cream and then like goes like, oh, look, I'm eating. It's like, if I were that, I would fill it like halfway and pretend like I had been eating.
Yeah. The kid's not very smart.
No. But I think the reason for it is that they want an increased gross out factor, because later they do show him having eaten the entire pint of shaving cream. And guess what? He throws up in the guy's car. So all is well.
Yeah.
Well, everyone has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
Absolutely.
But anyone who's been fat in a house has experienced that interaction at the refrigerator.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
You know, I don't think they intended to do it, but they nailed it.
Well, I think they must have, because they're pointing to the fact that it's in the culture.
Yeah.
And I think another interesting thing about a movie with diet culture is so lacking in fat characters. I don't remember a fat person ever eating this stuff.
The guy who discovered it.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to ask that. So the guy who discovers this stuff.
Was he fat? I don't know.
I think
he was fat for being in a movie in the 80s. Like,
yeah, exactly. Okay, that's fair.
And there was one fat shopper that is as a background doctor.
But the one most pointedly fat character in the movie is Paul Sorvino.
Yeah.
And Paul Sorvino does not eat the stuff, had no desire to eat the stuff, never went near the stuff, was not part of that culture.
Well, it's not really. This is about consumerism. This is about consumerism as it intersects with food. It's not about fat people or diet culture.
So this felt like, and maybe I'm just taking this in a filmmaker's direction, but this felt like somebody who was both inspired by and wanted to do their version of a John Carpenter movie, because like, the practical effects in this movie are great. They're cheesy. They're
wonderful.
Over the top.
They're wonderful,
fantastic.
Terrible.
Yeah. It's very much inspired by The Thing. If you see the first scene where the stuff was discovered, it's in this like snowy industrial landscape, which is very much reminiscent of The Thing. And
yes.
You also can't ignore the Blob. Like, the Blob is obviously another spiritual forefather to this movie.
Sure. And I appreciated that. It makes me appreciate John Carpenter's movies even more because he is also I don't know if we can even call him a B movie like king. He's just kind of his own thing. And you appreciate how unique that thing is when you see people sort of doing their own version of it, and it's not as successful. It's still entertaining.
Yeah. And I think you can say the same of things like John Waters, and particularly in this case, Roger Corman.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The in-depth study you might be looking for, Michael, is more evident in the movie Them of the same period. Do you remember that?
Yeah, is that the one with Roddy Piper?
Roddy Piper, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That I did a podcast with my friend Kyle about that.
And it's all, because that also is about consumerism, but it's a little more focused.
Yeah, that is a John Carpenter movie.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I was saying, was it has that. And this one, though, it very much has, I think, a sense of entertainment, which I appreciate.
Oh, yeah.
Like they know that the plot is kind of secondary to creating these like wonderful practical effects for things to happen, and showing how the stuff like hollows people out and then like slimes out of their mouths.
I mean, the porn is the horror, I guess that's the, if it has the acting values of porn.
Well, and the stuff is white, so I don't know, maybe there's something to that.
Oh, like jizz? Okay.
Yeah. The more you swallow, the more of a zombie you become, I guess.
There's the hidden message.
I actually quite enjoyed it with all the craziness up until they get to Paul Sorvino. Once they get to Paul Sorvino, I find everything kind of spirals out of control, gets even crazier and harder to
I had the same problem. But then I realized Paul Sorvino is just... He's going balls out because he knows it's a wacko. He treats it like a comedy.
It's not because of Paul Sorvino.
Yes.
I don't think it's because of Paul Sorvino at all.
No, but once I understood what he was doing, it made sense to me and I was okay.
Can you guys remind me? I know what he looks like, but can you remind me what
he was the
point
general
of the movie that is?
He's the Army general.
Right. He was the Vietnam veteran.
Yeah, the guy who
was
hates
like
commies.
super right wing.
The guy they managed to convince
overtly
him,
racist.
And sexist, and he's awful. He's an awful human being.
And that's the point.
And they convince him to help them fight the stuff by telling him that the corporations in charge of distributing stuff are commies, right?
Yeah. So then he's on board.
I mean, I think at that point, it's just so like the movie is so far gone and it's just kind of so like exhausting almost.
Yeah, there's no grounding it at that point. You have to just let it go. It just
goes crazy at that point.
So what do you think? I recommend this movie to anyone who likes riding the teacups at Disneyland.
I mean, I think as a sort of camp horror movie classic, I guess, anyone who appreciates those kinds of movies will very much enjoy this. I don't think I would recommend it to the general audience. I don't think it says enough. I don't think it has a strong enough satirical or social commentary voice to recommend to like our general audience. And to be clear to anyone listening, like, I think none of us had seen this movie before, right?
Never heard of it.
I saw it when I was a teenager. I haven't seen it since then.
Okay. So I was disappointed in that I was hoping for more of that, like stronger social commentary, but on its own merits as like a B horror movie, I think it also is entertaining. It's just sort of two different subjects that you have to be interested in.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only reason it's political is because of us. I mean, it's not trying to do that.
I don't know. I mean, I think actually like I was surprised at how kind of I think just because it's like the most serious thing in the movie, how upsetting the stuff with the family was. Because I feel like it is just very like
that landed
very visceral and very real. Like, but the most I guess it gets in the movie because it's just so like.
Well, Don said it. It's being ostracized as a child for your eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with what you're saying, Michael, as far as it not getting sort of deep enough into the topic to make it really, worthy of entrance into the world. But I also want to compare it really briefly to Dawn of the Dead, right? Dawn of the Dead is another famous cult horror movie that is a commentary on commercialism. But I think people kind of missed that point with Dawn of the Dead. Like the average movie-going audience doesn't necessarily appreciate that. Whereas this one, making its message so blatant, does actually make you have a conversation about it in a way that I feel Dawn of the Dead fails.
I think that you know what? Because this is the pie in the face of anti-consumerism.
Yes.
That is such the perfect way to
lacking in total subtlety.
And then the pie kills you.
And eats you.
Oh God. I do also, I want to acknowledge the commercial, like the commercials, the jingles.
Oh, I love
were
it.
so good.
Yeah.
And like the women in bikinis and fur coats feeding each other the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like such
priceless.
a specific vibe.
I loved my favorite like jump scare cameo was the "Where's the beef" lady saying "Where's the stuff?" Like as soon as I saw that, I was like, that was like a transition. That was literally just like a thing that an interstitial commercial between scenes. Like absolutely, like that is a level of entertainment factor that I appreciate in a movie like this.
One thing that makes me sad is apparently the director's cut of this, which is out there
There's
somewhere.
a director's cut?
They apparently, the original cut of this was much longer, and the director, Larry Cohen, said that the studio, New Line Cinema, basically gave him the feedback that this is too complicated and a little too smart. right? That's what he said.
Really?
That's what he said. So he pulled a lot of it out, including a love scene between the two characters.
How unnecessary.
And here's the key thing. Multiple commercials apparently got pulled out.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to see that, see the director's cut just for more of those commercials.
Watch that.
Well, maybe, Michael, that'll answer your criticism. Yeah.
Another thing worth talking about for this movie is the special effects.
Yes.
The special effects are practical. They're of the time, but my God, they're good.
They're really compelling.
I believe in this stuff.
I like that you can see kind of different technologies of the time being applied. Like if anyone's seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the scene where they kind of, I can't remember which character it is. I think it's
the
Johnny
blood
Depp's
on the
character?
bed. It's Johnny Depp.
Yeah. And the blood on the bed like shoots up into the ceiling, and they basically reverse the room. So the bed's on the ceiling, and then they have the blood falling, and they flop it in post, and that way, or not in post, but they flip the camera upside down.
Yeah.
And they use a similar effect in this, which I think is not as effective, only because they stay on it too long.
Yeah.
And you can start to see gravity shifting with the room turning, but otherwise still like really fun to watch.
Fun trivia moment, and tie into Michael there. The reason why that might remind you of that scene so much is because that is filmed on the exact same set that famous scene was filmed on.
That's
using the exact same rotating room.
That makes sense. It makes total sense.
Well, why build a whole new rotating room?
Pretty much every scene where they use the stuff is like, I was fascinated by it. Right. And I was looking up what they did to make it.
It was good.
Most of the scenes where they had to eat it or interact with it, it was apparently melted Haagen-Dazs milk mixed with yogurt.
Yeah.
That was the edible version. But the other stuff was sometimes shaving cream, was sometimes fire extinguisher foam for some of the bigger shots.
Yeah.
Apparently, during one of the more nasty ones where people were getting eaten, they had to make sort of a big foam that could swamp an actual person. They had to come up with something that was made with ground fish bones. And fish parts that apparently smelled so bad that as soon as the director called cut, the actors would flee the set, run to a nearby river to wash off.
Oh my God. How could you do that to somebody? That's
sacrifices.
Awful.
The river smelled better. Ouch.
Yeah.
Than dead ground up fish parts. God.
Really?
I will say, I mean, this is a weird thing to tack on to the end of that, but I did go out and buy marshmallow fluff after this movie.
Wait, are you okay?
Yeah. I'm totally fine. You should try some.
I kept thinking it was meringue because that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I could see that too, for sure. Like an Italian meringue.
Yeah.
I think Michael would be the only person that clocked this. I wrote it down. So our little shade sound effect, there's a point where that's playing when the stuff is burning. It's like just such a specific sound effect that I associate with like Drag Race reality show as the stuff is burning, and it just keeps doing this sound effect. Like I kept waiting for it to cut away to someone in, the a little interview booth, just like making a face.
This is the kind of movie where you're watching it, you're kind of waiting to see how it unfolds, you're waiting for answers, and they just never address or explain what this shit is. It's just the stuff. It just comes out of the earth.
Well,
who knows where or why?
To be fair, they explore those issues by saying, we don't know what it is and we don't know where it comes from.
And we don't care.
And they know it's delicious.
Right. They do make a point I love the discovery scene. It's the opening scene of the movie. He just walks up. He sees this bubbling white goo in the middle of a puddle, a bunch of snow, and he just looks at it quizzically, leans down, puts his finger in it, smells it, and then eats it. And it's just like, sure. Okay, that's what we're doing. That's okay. And now you know what movie you're watching.
No. But following up is that his friend comes along and he's like, here, taste this. And the friend's like, I don't know. No, you should taste it. And the guy does.
Let me eat it off your finger.
Yeah.
The friend is the weirdest line there too. I don't eat snow. I'm like, who doesn't eat snow?
It's wild. Part of me wishes that we had gotten a little bit more about what it is, but also I feel like our bit is going to tie into that question, perhaps.
But do we have a tip?
Vote. Dear God, vote. That's the tip.
Yeah.
Please. I think Michael, so I sent you the Lizzo song last year. I guess not last year, last election. Lizzo wrote a little bop about getting out and vote.
It's time to vote. It's time to what? VOTE.
do your civic duty.
All right, everybody. So today, since we have enjoyed the movie The Stuff from 1985 so much, directed by Larry Cohen, we thought we would take the time to pitch some 4 different concepts for sequels to The Stuff. And I can't wait to hear what everyone came up with.
So my idea was kind of a almost Matrix style, like post-apocalyptic kind of, the Stuff has taken over most of the world. But there are still, there's still like small groups of people trying to like fight back. And perhaps a savior who is immune to the Stuff and can basically pass by eating it and not being affected.
Yes, of course.
Is he going to save us by eating all of it? Is that the idea?
And he just gets fatter and fatter.
Well, no, I mean, one of the benefits is weight loss. So he actually
but he's the opposite. Remember,
he's the opposite.
He's
That's
immune,
right.
so
That's
he does
right.
gain the weight.
So really, it's just a movie about watching a guy eating ice cream.
I think that's called. I think that's called gainer porn.
I was going to say it's basically just gainer porn.
Well, I actually took the Wegovy thing, or the Ozempic thing to heart.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like an impurity gets introduced into this new weight loss thing, right? That makes it much more powerful. So like you take the injection and it dissolves fat from your body to make you emaciated, right? So you get the scary emaciated zombies. But it has the same effect of the Stuff. Everyone should look as good as me. So they start getting the shots to inject other people with it. So
This
you
feels
have
very
hordes of
Brazil.
people running through the streets trying to find people who aren't emaciated to just keep injecting them with this stuff until they look like them.
I like that, but I would go a little less zombie-like with it. And I kind of like it more on the level of them, where this emaciated zombie look is what's considered the height of beauty. And
Like
that,
fashion.
Yeah. And that people who look normal are considered just grotesque. And they are treated as such.
Okay, so I'm going to tie this all together because my approach was like, it is the Jurassic World approach where it is The Stuff and it is a, soft reboot. And maybe we're going to
maybe even a soft serve reboot.
Yes, a soft serve reboot.
Wow.
With Jason's. So Jason is an adult now. This stuff is so long ago, and maybe it's something that people talk about in like on Reddit posts. Like, does anyone else remember The Stuff?
Yeah.
And like post it, lost media. And it is Jason's son who is fat because he grew up in not in a super diet culture family. And he is navigating this world where there is this new trend in a Ozempic, society, but it is a new drug that is going out and it is kind of going through social media. It is on the news. It is everywhere. And
so that's the tie-in. Yeah.
And like, I think that maybe like, just because how things work out, like Jason would end up with a woman who is very neurotic and very body conscious. So there would be this conflict within the family, and that maybe she takes him to get injected, but it doesn't work on him. So he is kind of flying under the radar, getting these injections and they're not working, but he is seeing how it is affecting other people and just seeing the prevalence on social media.
So did you say it's Jason or Jason's son?
Jason's son.
Jason's son, who's also named Jason?
Yes.
Jason Jr.
Okay.
Yeah, JJ. And maybe father and son go on a, kind of like road trip to go find their old pal Mo, who's like kind of living off the grid.
Absolutely would.
And we get that, the reveal for the true fans of the stuff when he turns around and we reveal it's Mo, but otherwise people will be like, who the hell is this guy? This isn't Matthew McConaughey. But I guess you could bring in Matthew McConaughey as the son of, he is the legacy character of Mo and the
advertising
love interest,
chick.
the advertising woman.
Nicole.
Yeah.
Good for you pulling that out of your ass.
My surprise. I'm as surprised as you are.
And so JJ and Matthew McConaughey and Octavia Spencer.
You just want her in the movie.
Yes. Launch
why not?
our new trilogy of the stuff in this legacy franchise sequel series.
Actually, rather than Octavia Spencer, the person who was supposed to, that the director wanted instead of Garrett Morris for this,
Really?
the guy from Saturday Night Live was Arsenio Hall.
Oh.
The studio decided that Arsenio Hall wasn't famous enough yet at that time.
Interesting. And Garrett Morris was hot off Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
His character introduction in this movie is chaotic.
I love
it. I know it's perfect because he's playing a recognizable parody character. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just weird that they decided to put in a parody character of Famous Amos. It's like, it's so out of left field.
That's what I want from a movie, is a very specific parody character.
So dear listener, are you craving a parody character in your favorite podcast? Who is it that you would like? Where could they tell us, Trevor?
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there. Leave us 5 stars and a review on your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at BigFatGayPod.com, baby.
And send us your messages at our email address.
Maybe you are having a terrible realization that during this entire podcast, you've been eating the stuff.
Oh, no.
And enough is never enough of the stuff.
So watch out. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Werewolf sound effect.